This video is going to help us make a replica of a chess piece. We're going to start with a pawn, a replica of a chess piece from one of our chess sets, and it's going to primarily use offset plane. So let's get started. First, we're going to create the base of the pawn. You're going to use a ruler, but let's just say that this is about 1 inch. And so again, this is the bottom, and we're going to extrude it. And I'm using my ruler, I'm measuring, and I find out that the bottom part of the pawn is about just 1/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to change this to 0.25. And let's use our arrow keys and just going to double check that. Edit. Depth was 0.25. Okay, that looks better. It should look like a disc. Okay. Now we are going to need, so we're looking at it on the side. You can see that this extruded up towards us. Okay, and that's important because now we're going to right click and say isometric. I've got it like that, and we are going to go up to the next level. And so I'm going to right click on front, say offset plane. I'm measuring on my pawn how far. We're going to have to connect this circle to a smaller circle, and so we can't really extrude to do that. This is kind of like almost like a pyramid, but with cylindrical shapes. So we need another plane up towards us in the direction of this arrow, and I measured it, and the distance away until it sort of reaches this next level is 0.25. And if we look at this from the side, arrow around, we can see that in fact it did put the plane 1, you can see that's the new plane, is in the direction I wanted it to be compared to front. But guess what? I made it 0.25, but that only gets us to here. I really needed it to be 0.25 on top of this disc. So let's go back to this plane and edit it. And so really it's this distance right there from this, the height of this cylinder is 0.25, and I want it to be another 0.25 on top of that. So that is, so the plane, this is getting a little confusing, but we started with this front plane. I'm talking about where do I put this next plane? How far away from the front? And it's actually 0.25 plus 0.25. So it's going to be 0.5 and there. So now if we click back over here and look at this from the side, yeah, look at that. So we're going to jump from the top of this cylinder to this next plane. And that's kind of what we needed to do. So, okay, let's check mark that. And it turned out that in the pawn that we're using, we had started out with, I think, a 0.75 inches cylinder, and now this one's smaller than that. Kind of narrows as it goes up. And you've seen what's it called? A pawn piece that's typical. So fine. I'm gonna click on front. Look at this. I'm gonna say sketch. And when I hit, watch when I highlight this and click on it. Yes, plane 1 here. If it says front, then you want to turn sideways and make sure that you highlighted plane 1, not, let's zoom out a little. we want plane 1, not front, which is right behind it. So that's good. I'm on the right plane. Let's go back and look at it from the front then. And I'm going to make another circle. I'm going to make a center point circle. We can highlight on the middle of this. And this one is only 0.5. 0.5. Use the dimension tool. Great. All right. And I'm going to now I'm going to check mark that. And we need to use loft. Let's look at this from the side. We can another way to do this is right click and say isometric so we can see it from the side. I'm going to zoom in. You can see a little better. We've got this circle, and we want to connect it to the top of this disk. So I'm going to use my loft tool, and I'm going to say I want to connect from that to that. By the way, don't go to that point. I'll show you what it does. It's going to, you can't even see it. I'll check mark this just so you can see. That's what it would have done. It made it into kind of a top looking thing. I'm going to undo that. Try this again. Show you how it should be done. Loft. I'm going to go from here to highlight the whole circle. See how the outside of the circle highlighted, not the dot, the center point here. And there's our, we've made our second level. Okay, and now on my pawn, it goes down to an even smaller level, and this is 0.5 inches in height. So I need to add 0.5. Looking at this from the side, we had this plane, which was the original front plane. This next plane was 0.5 away. We need to go another 0.5 and create another plane above that for an even narrower level. So I'm going to right click here, say isometric, right click. Now, if I right click here and say offset plane, then it's only got to be 0.5 away from plane 1. But if I go to my front plane and do it, it's going to have to be 0.5 plus 0.5, which I'm going to do. Highlight. So I'm actually starting from the front plane, which is that original plane we started with. Right click, say offset plane, and 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1. So you can already see plane 2 is popping up here. And that's what I want. And I'm going to scroll back this way. And we have an even, look at it from the front, sketch. And I'm going to click on here, and I can't tell which plane. So, but over here it tells me it was a plane 2. So I'm okay. That's where I wanted to put this. And I'm going to sketch, make a center point circle. I'm going to put it right on top of this again. And I'm eyeballing this. And I'm going to make this 0.25. So that's how big my next level is. And because my bigger circle was 0.5 and my little circle is 0.25, in order to make sure this is centered, I'm going to scroll and I'm going to say the distance between this outside of this circle and that circle is 0.25. Oh, I needed to be half of that. 0.125. Now we have it centered. And click. So what do we got now? Now we've got this. We've got that. This is the end of our existing piece. We want to connect it to that circle. What do? Go to our loft tool. Loft. Connect that. Remember, not to the center point, but to the entire circle. There. Okay. Um, and now we're going to make the very top of the pawn. And it actually looks like a sphere. So here's how I'm going to recommend you do that. You're going to go down here and hit the plus sign and say Create Part Studio. And when you do create that Part Studio, it's going to make something down here called Part Studio 2. And I've already made the sphere. Okay, so you are going to have to go back and look at the tutorial for the sphere, or if you remember how to do it, you can just do the sphere, make it the right size, and then, as we've already done, we can go into assembly. And I've already put it together, but I'll delete this for now. Remember, it's insert. And if you have these two pieces done in Part Studio 1 and Part Studio 2, they'll be available to you. So I'll just click on that. There's my base, and there's the top, and there they go. Okay. So I can click on that, and you can play around with this, but here's one way to do it. I'll just check mark that. Let's zoom out. I'm going to look at it from the left, since that's kind of what we're looking at it as now. And I'm going to move the ball. I'm just going to grab it, move it that way, and that way, so it's on top. And it kind of looks like it's there, but it's probably not really the way it has to be. So let's look at it from the front. And see, it's not quite right, so I'm going to move it over that way. So it's right above the other circle. But we're still not, that might be right, but let's look at it from a different angle. Zoom out. Got it from the bottom. That looks okay. Look at it from the right. That looks okay. That looks okay. And if you, it may or may not go in the right spot right away when you move it there. So you just look at it from the left. You look at it from the front. You look at it from the back. You look at it from the top, and you keep moving it to put it in the right spot, and eventually it'll be there. And this is about how you want it. Alternatively, you could try using your mates, but I think for this project, that's going to be a little bit difficult. So this is what I went with. So there's the pawn. Good luck.